Chinese authorities have been reporting 0 cases of local infection of CCP virus, earning praises from the Western media. But residents in China are telling us a different story. On the same day, Chinese authorities reported 0 new cases in Hubei province. A major local news outlet released an article detailing one family's plight to seek medical treatment for the virus. And starting today, nearly 1 in 4 Americans told to stay home. And a priest in Maryland is offering drive-through confessions, an effort to offer hope in uncertain times. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. 3 days ago, China reported 0 new CCP virus or coronavirus infections for the first time. But netizens in Taiwan are questioning the official numbers. One netizen asked in an online forum how to verify that the pandemic in China is really under control. In the online discussions, 3 criteria stood out. One is whether North Korea and Russia have reopened their borders with China. One comment said that would mean the outbreak in China is really under control because dictators know dictators best. North Korea was the first country to close its border with China. Russia followed soon after, closing its border 1 week later. The borders remain closed. The 2 other criteria are whether Chinese elementary and middle schools are open and whether China's most important annual political meetings will still go ahead. The political meetings, called 2 sessions, are postponed, and only some schools in China are open. A netizen said if any of these criteria are missing, the pandemic inside China hasn't really been resolved. Earlier this week, Chinese state media were saying medical teams from outside Wuhan left there as the pandemic eased. Not all of them left, and some are asked to go back. 2 medical assistant teams from another province have been helping in Wuhan for some time. Both received an emergency notice in the morning of March 17th, asking them to go to other hospitals in the city. On March 19th, about a dozen medical staff who went to Hubei to help and later returned to their hometown asked to return to a city in Hubei province. Chinese media reports that they asked to go back to treat just 8 patients and said even if 1 patient hadn't recovered, they wouldn't leave the hospital. The question is, does the local hospital really need outside help from over 600 miles away to treat just 8 patients? According to Chinese state media, Chinese authorities have begun to test a vaccine for the coronavirus on humans. The clinical trial period is from March 16th to December 31st. The first batch of participants are divided into 3 groups of 36 people, each with different doses. After the injection, they will be observed for 14 days. Chinese authorities on March 20th announced 0 new infections the day before in the CCP virus epicenter, Hubei province. On the same day, an article circulated on the internet describing the experiences of virus patients who were refused medical treatment. The article was published on Chinese social media WeChat and written by a reporter from a major news outlet in Hubei. It was subsequently deleted. The article recounts the author's experience of helping a Wuhan family seeking medical treatment. The parents were both infected with the CCP virus. The woman showed symptoms again after she was discharged from the hospital. They went to several hospitals in Wuhan. No one would take them. At 3 a.m., the ambulance left them at the door of Hubei General Hospital. After waiting for 13 hours, the hospital still wouldn't admit the patient. The reporter was able to get hold of the president of another hospital, who later agreed to admit the patient. The ambulance later took the woman to the outpatient department, which refused to admit the patient again. After much coordination, the hospital agreed to admit her without registration. The reporter saying this was so they could have one less patient on record. As the CCP virus strains healthcare systems in the Western world, China is announcing a 2nd day of no local cases, but locals are telling a different story.
Chinese authorities are hailing their success in battling the virus.
I have some good news. China is reporting no new locally transmitted coronavirus cases.
Quite a milestone. As you mentioned, 0 homegrown cases.
The regime claims things are under control and that now they're only worried about cases imported from other countries. But Chinese citizens are describing something entirely different. This notice letter from a Wuhan neighborhood committee reads that one residential building confirmed 2 new cases, and starting Friday, the building is going under lockdown. Netizens from other neighborhoods are posting similar notices they've received this week. The notices report new cases in their buildings and ask people to stay home. An online video posted on Thursday shows that Wuhan residents are still lining up in front of fever clinics.
协和医院的发热门诊又在排队了，78、79、24。哇，看到没有？30多个人在排队。
This is one of Wuhan's designated facilities to treat the CCP virus. Despite videos published by state-run media showing patients going home, local hospitals may not be as unburdened as described. One resident in Wuhan said that her father was critically ill from kidney disease, but she explained that no hospitals will admit him because they're overrun with virus patients.
All hospitals in Wuhan told us there's no bed for kidney disease.
The situation in a neighboring city is similar.
The city of Huanggang, they don't have any beds available either. We pulled some strings and learned that it seems like a whole department is isolated.
They even tried asking about other provinces, but no one wants to accept them.
Right now, this is a political task. We can't really blame them. If the number of cases in other provinces goes up, their officials may also have to step down.
Another video posted on March 19th showed a new makeshift hospital set up within a stadium in suburban Wuhan.
我们的任务也要马上完成了，一夜造出一个救助站，马上就要完成。
Since China started to close its makeshift hospitals, many patients have been transferred to over 300 so-called recovery centers. But locals say many such patients still carry the virus and are not really cured. Traces of information from China's state media are also giving away glimpses of the true situation. Several medical teams, who came from other provinces to support Wuhan, had just left for home, but are now returning. It raises questions about whether the number of patients is really as small as authorities claim. Reporting by Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Florida resort Mar-a-Lago is added to the list of coronavirus closures. The resort owned by the Trump Organization is shut down. President Trump often retreats to Mar-a-Lago from Washington. A member says they were informed Friday night that the beach club would shutter after operating at about half capacity earlier in the day. Other areas of the resort were previously closed. On Friday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis ordered all beaches and many other public areas in Palm Beach and Broward counties to close. A spokesperson for the Trump Organization says some of its facilities have closed to follow state and federal mandates. Nearly 1 in 4 Americans were under orders to close up shop and stay at home today, as lawmakers in Washington neared a deal that could pump a record $1 trillion into the economy to limit the economic damage from the coronavirus. New Jersey's governor followed 4 other states, California, New York, Illinois, and Connecticut, that have imposed unprecedented public health restrictions to slow the spread of infections, which have risen exponentially. As of midday Saturday, 286 deaths and more than 22,000 cases have been reported. And now to New York. The Federal Aviation Administration suspended flights to New York City and Philadelphia for a short period of time earlier today. The holdup happened because of staffing issues caused by the CCP virus. New York State still has the highest number of cases in the U.S., reaching over 10,000. The state governor announcing today they are expecting to increase hospital capacity and medical supplies like face masks and drug therapy.
Hospital capacity is a top priority for New York State. Governor Andrew Cuomo said Saturday they are looking at potential temporary hospital sites, like some state university buildings and the Westchester Convention Center. The governor said they are requesting 4 field hospitals from the federal government, which would provide 1,000 additional hospital beds. And starting immediately, the state will start trials for a new drug therapy to see if it helps patients in New York. They are also working to gather more ventilators and face masks. Cuomo said on Saturday officials located 2 million face masks that can be sent to hotspots.
We are literally scouring the globe looking for medical supplies.
1 million masks will go to New York City hospitals, and 500,000 will go to Long Island. According to Cuomo, there are a number of apparel companies starting to make masks. But he says that while masks are helpful, the virus is still likely to spread further.
And 1 million masks won't get us through the crisis, but it'll make a significant contributions to New York City's mask issue.
He also asks people to show good nature in their actions as the world faces this tough situation.
But now, if ever there's a time to practice humanity, the time is now. The time is now to show some kindness, show some compassion to people, show some gentility.
Continuing on to say that even though New York can be a difficult environment, it is also a courageous community, saying now is a time to show the best side of humankind. Melina Weisskopf, NTD News, New York.
And an interesting fact, Cuomo said today that New York conducts more CCP virus tests than any U.S. state. And further, the state does more tests per capita than any place in the world, even compared to China or South Korea. Standing as one of the hardest hit countries, Italy's CCP virus death toll is on the rise once again. This time the numbers are streaming in faster than ever.
The death toll of the CCP virus in Italy has leapt by almost 800 in a single day. That's an increase of almost 20%. Coffins lined up in the chapel inside Cremona Hospital in the Lombardy region. It's one of the many Italian medical facilities struggling to cope with the pandemic. There are 300,000 Chinese citizens living in Italy, many of them in the northern part of the country, where the virus is most severely spreading. Amid the pandemic, some are examining Italy's ties with China's Communist Party. It was the first of the G7 countries to sign China's One Belt, One Road initiative. It made the decision despite criticism from its Western allies. Meanwhile, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani held a cabinet meeting on Saturday. All attendees were seen wearing face masks, except Rouhani. Iran is also one of the worst-hit countries, with almost 1,556 deaths as of Saturday. This, as according to Iran's official numbers. The total number of infections now exceeds 20,000. Ties between China and Iran have strengthened in recent years. The countries signed a deal in 2016 to boost trade between them by around 1,000% over the following 2 years. The agreement was consistent with the One Belt, One Road initiative. Elsewhere, France endured its 5th day of a nationwide lockdown on Saturday. For now, violating the rule means receiving a $40 to $150 fine, and thousands have already received them. Slovakia is also taking precautions. On Saturday, the country's new government was sworn in wearing facial masks.
Your task is to protect as many human lives as possible against the invisible danger.
And in Maryland, one priest is offering drive-through confession services, an effort to offer hope in a time of despair.
The CCP virus has prevented many from engaging in social activities. That includes attending church and confessing their sins. To get around this obstacle, this priest in Maryland came up with a neat idea.
You know, they were testing people for the coronavirus in South Korea through drive-thrus. And I said, well, why not treat people with confession through drive-thrus, right? So then I grabbed some cones, the sign, and the chair, and put them out in the parking lot, and then
He didn't expect people to come, and at first not many did. But after gaining some media attention, the priest began to lose count of how many appeared. For one penitent, the meaning of confession is quite profound.
It's about renewal. You know, there's nobody who's perfect, and the one thing about confession is it allows us to be able to become renewed.
As to why people are venturing outside to confess when many remain in self-isolation at home, Father Homer explains that they're looking for something beyond the physical.
I really think the vaccine for fear is faith. And so knowing that even if all the world goes completely chaotic, you can still hold on to your relationship with God.
And in times like these, for some, having something to hold on to can make all the difference.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.